Welcome to today's webinar, Beyond Checking Boxes, Orchestrating Capture-Driven Strategies for Proposals That Win. My name is Chloe Norwood. I am the Field Marketing Specialist here at Visible Thread. I'm thrilled to welcome our speaker, Meryl Angela Cola, founder of Proposal Team and Director of Strategic Grants and Proposals at First Day Foundation. Before we begin, I'd like to note that the fourth installment of the Optimize series will be on February 29th from 9 o'clock in the morning to 4 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern Time. Optimize 24 AI will be all about revolutionizing proposal management. Our lineup of speakers are esteemed leaders and innovators in AI, offering their insights on how AI will reshape our industry. You will also get an exclusive look at Visible Thread's AI product roadmap. Click the free content box on your screen to register today. As for the webinar, there will be a Q&A session at the end. Feel free to submit your questions into the Q&A box. The slides and recording of this webinar will be available after it ends. And now I will hand it over to Meryl.
All right, thanks so much, Chloe. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We'll give folks just a few minutes to get settled. We are going to talk through how to orchestrate capture-driven proposals. I'm sure you guys have all been in situations where things did not feel like they were necessarily in harmony, maybe a little bit chaotic. I have definitely been in those situations before, and it's probably one of the most common and also stressful situations to encounter in GovCon, proposal management, capture, and all other situations really where proposals are involved. So we're going to talk through that today. Just to introduce myself, I am Meryl Angela Cola. As Chloe said, I am the Director of Strategic Grants and Proposals at First Day Foundation, and also the founder of Proposal Team Training. First Day Foundation is near and dear to my heart, and I want to just talk about them just for a minute here. Their mission is to make good greater. We provide support and resources and expertise to a wide variety of nonprofits that are making a really big difference in Texas, in the United States, and then beyond internationally. And just a few of them are here on the screen, but I would encourage you guys, especially if you're watching back on recording, to check out these folks and the good work that they're doing because it is really making a difference, and it's way more important than anything I will say today. Proposal Team, I'm not sure if you guys have heard of it before. We are a nonprofit and a volunteer-run training and mentorship program. Our mission is to empower individuals from diverse backgrounds to pursue careers in government contracting and proposals. And we do that through providing free training, mentorship, hands-on experience, and industry partnerships. The goal is to create a more inclusive and accessible pathway to success in the field. If you guys have found yourself in, a role within proposals, even if it's not GovCon, but especially if it is GovCon, you may have noticed that they don't really push this in college or at career day. And that was my experience. I found it, very accidentally. And what we want to do is make this a more intentional career path because that is really good for our industry. But it's also a great opportunity for individuals. And we believe that providing resources and opening the doors is good for everybody. And what we aim to do is foster a community of professionals who are equipped with the skills and knowledge to contribute to our industry's growth and success. That's a little bit about Proposal Team and First Day. In Proposal Team's first year, just to talk a little bit more about our goals and why we're here, we had over 17 students get offers that were not working in the industry, 27 mentors engaged. We had over 100 students enroll, and we're able to give almost $150,000 in resources and tools. All right, so to continue on a little bit about me, I, again, founder of Proposal Team, Director of Grants and Proposals at First Day, but I've spent 20 plus years in GovCon and proposals. I mentioned that I found this career path accidentally. That happened when I was 19 years old. I do not have a college degree. I went to college for sign language interpretation, also went to beauty school. I'm an actual beauty school dropout because I was not good at either of them. But I'm really grateful that I found GovCon and proposals when I did. My story is probably similar to many of yours, where I happened to apply for a job in Colorado because I wanted to move there, and the company happened to sell services to the federal government, and they invited me to join their team as a recruiter. Once I got there, my boss went out of the country for 6 weeks and was not reachable, and they were in the middle of a proposal. They were a very small team, and thankfully our partner mentored me through all of it, and it was my first proposal, and I was hooked. And we happened to win the contract, and they had bid me as the program manager because my boss was out of town. So not only did I have to figure out how to manage a proposal and all of the procurement lifecycle, but then I had to learn how to manage a proposal and interact with the government and do a kickoff. And that's really been the theme of my career. I've done a lot of different things, oftentimes at the same time. So that's included capture, contract management, program management, recruiting, HR, and of course, proposals. I've managed large contracts for CDC and NIH and NASA. I have been the HR, manager for contractors that work on site. I've interfaced with the customers in contract management, recruited the folks into the roles, and then of course wrote the proposals. And what we're going to be talking about today is really, I think, the biggest gift that anybody gave me in my career, which was the opportunity to do a lot of these different things, because it has really impacted the way that I manage proposals and manage teams and also go after work. That full view of the process lifecycle and understanding cause and effect has really made my job in a lot of ways easier and more effective. And that's what we teach on Proposal Team. That is what we help the folks at First Day Foundation and then the nonprofits there achieve. And we teach them as well. And that's what we're hoping to teach you guys here today. If you do have questions as we go through this presentation, please put them in the QA, and we will definitely try to make time for them at the end. And if not, I will work with Chloe and get the answers to your questions as well. So we talked a little bit about my history with managing contracts. One of the most interesting proposals that went on to become a contract that I managed was one for the CDC, where they asked me to provide 40,000 butterflies. And this is not something we had done before. They were building a butterfly garden. They were working with a hospital in Colorado and studying some vector-borne diseases like West Nile virus. And they wanted, when folks came for the clinical trials and interface with them, they wanted a beautiful place for them to stay. And so we were already providing those services, the research services, and there was an add-on contract, and my company happened to also do facility support and things like that and animal husbandry. So we bid on this. So 40,000 butterflies is a lot. It was beautiful to see. This is what we're going to use today as our example, because this is an example for those of you who are not familiar with GovCon. This is the type of thing that the government buys. They buy all types of goods and services. And a lot of times we think of services in IT or like rockets, things like that, but you can find really interesting contracts like this as well. One of the things that confused me the most when I first started in this industry is that, not even just confused me, but it just blew my mind, is that something can go from a piece of paper, which is an RFP, where the government is saying, or the customer is saying, we need 40,000 butterflies, right? And then we respond to it as a company and provide an offer and say, we can provide these butterflies to you. Here's why you should buy them from us. And this is our approach. And oftentimes it's a piece of paper or, a digital piece of paper that we're submitting. And then pretty soon after submission, once it's been evaluated and an award is made, those butterflies need to be real, right? And so we go oftentimes from paper to butterflies. And if you don't have that full life cycle experience, or you're not given that opportunity to see it from start to finish, you can get really lost. On the procurement and contract side, we can see this just as a piece of paper. On the proposal side, it definitely happens. We can just see this as another piece of paper and a proposal response and words on paper and checking boxes. But those butterflies are real, and real people will experience them. And so my approach and proposal team method of proposal management is a little different, in which we want to empower everybody on the team to be able to see the butterflies, right, as the end goal. And to me, that makes a more believable proposal, and more believable proposals result in contract wins. And not only do they result in butterflies, they result in millions and millions of dollars, right? So no pressure. The stakes are pretty high. So it's very important that we do that. Now, I have a quick question I've seen in the chat. Are you guys able to see the slides? All right. Chloe, let me know if we need to change something on our end, but I think we got that figured out. So
I think we're all good.
Great. Okay. So again, the big thing, how do we go from paper to butterflies? Most of us on this call will have some idea of how the procurement lifecycle works. If that's something that you don't have, I will send Chloe a link at the end of this where we've got a video that explains it. But at the end of the day, the most important thing to know is that it takes a lot of really talented and specialized people to pull off. Every company is different, but everybody has different levels of resources, but you cannot create a proposal that's going to win without the talents, either somebody that has lots of varied talents and experience, right? Or lots of people that are coming together with varied talents and experience. And honestly, that's really what is required. The great thing about proposals, and one of my favorite things, is that there's a pretty consistent process. And you guys may recognize this in some way. You may have other words for it, but at the baseline, most of these processes are similar. You have capture or business development, where folks are learning about the opportunity, where they are talking to the customer, getting to know the customer's needs, talking to competitors, talking to potential partners. They're gathering information about an opportunity to inform the rest of the process and also influence the customer so that the process is informed by them. Once we have information, and really, at the same time that capture is happening, we're taking that information, and our subject matter experts are developing a solution that is tailored to the customer and is in line with what we are learning. We're taking our subject matter experts and their expertise, and now we're applying that to the capture information that we have found. Hopefully, by the time the RFP is released, a lot of companies will then respond to the proposal with that information they got during capture and describing the solution they developed. The proposal submitted, the award is made, and then you have to deliver on the services or products that you promised. Again, the great thing about this being a similar process across the board is that it's consistent, right? And that means there's similar process, some similar expectations. The lingo is pretty similar. Needs, people, roles, tools, and skill sets. Again, all of these things may be called different things, or they may be executed slightly differently, but they match a pretty similar life cycle. And for that reason, there's a lot of consistency. And because of this, it's great because we can take lessons learned on one opportunity and apply them to the next. And that's fantastic. But there's also some negative things that happen because of this consistency that I have seen personally in 20 years over and over and over again within organizations, is that we see a lot of the same issues, blocks, mistakes, and frustrations. And that's what we're going to talk about today, and really, talk through how we fix that, or, approach the solution to that. At a base level, BD processes and proposals often feel chaotic. They often feel rushed, even if you have a lot of time. They often feel like the pieces don't fit by the time everything comes together. And because of that, they often lack direction, right? And that is something that we're sometimes able to fix during the proposal process, but oftentimes we're just able to fix just enough. Another way to think of this is, the traditional BD process. It's a lot of different boxes that people are in. And as we proceed and move through the process, we open one box after another. What this results is putting our very talented people and very talented contributors and SMEs and their expertise, we're also putting those people in boxes as well. And we're cutting them off from the other pieces of the process, which is really important, right? We want them to be able to have full visibility, but by nature of this, we're not giving them that opportunity. And what this looks like, another way to think of it is like a game of telephone. I don't know if you guys played that. My little girl just discovered it and loves it. So telephone, if you don't know what that is, when you're a child, you either whisper in somebody's ear or you've got two tin cans on a string if you're old school like me, and you are passing information to somebody, right? And they are trying to synthesize that information and understand what you're saying. And these boxes oftentimes create that situation. So capture will do their capture work and they're on their capture island. And then now we're getting closer to the RFP being released. So if you guys are on a good timeline, then that means that now it's time for solutions to take that capture information and to synthesize it into a solution. But unfortunately, if capture doesn't, they may have the information that the government wants 40,000 monarch butterflies, but they may not know how to communicate that, or there may be some details missing. And so your solutions architects, if they are, not understanding that, they're delivering a butterfly, but maybe they're partial to blue butterflies, or maybe they've got expertise in blue butterflies, or the blue butterflies are cheaper and they think the government wants just the cheapest, whatever reason. What happens is those wires get crossed and you have access to the information, but not all of it's being utilized to create your solution. And this further gets complicated by the time solution starts talking to the proposal team. And now we are, in a situation where the proposal team is now separated from the original discussions with the customer, right? And every time this information is passed on and we're moving from box to box, that information is going to get a little bit less correct and less valuable. And we've seen that happen over and over again, which is why by the time you get to the proposal phase and you bring capture and solutions back in, it really feels chaotic and like the pieces don't fit because you have two different pictures for the end puzzle, right? And you have to waste valuable proposal time when you have a deadline to try to put those pieces back together and figure out where the disconnect was. And really, there's not a ton of time for that. What we need to be doing during the proposal phase and before the proposal phase is refining that vision and what the customer wants and making sure we're able to communicate that in the proposal. And then the worst thing I always say is the only thing worse than losing is winning, because if you win something that you're not able to deliver on, and this becomes very much the case in a lot of situations, if delivery is not part of the process, you risk a bad review from the government, and that is, or if you're in the government industry or from your other customers, and that impacts your ability to win future work, right? And so that is not good for anybody. So it is advantageous for everybody to remove these boxes. And it's because they create silos. And in order to increase the impact of our processes, we have to really think beyond them and try to remove those silos. Great. So in order to remove silos, this is the opportunity that was given to me. Because I started my career and went through my career working for small to mid-sized companies, I was often the one managing the employees on the government site and talking to the customer. And so I had situations where we would have recompetes come up. And so I already knew the customer and I already knew the employees. And so I had that history. And I was able to then apply that to a proposal situation. So in many ways, I was delivery, I was solutions architect, and I was the proposal writer and manager. I do not recommend that. This is not what I'm pitching to you guys. I don't think that's a good way to approach this, right? But what it allowed me to do was have the end goal in sight, and I was able to see that end goal and really push towards that end goal throughout the entire process. And I've been able to coach the teams that I work with because of that experience to have the same, that's the same level of understanding that I need before I feel good about managing a proposal. And so I insist to be involved in the process. And I really think it's advantageous. And I'm going to talk through how I do that with you guys today. Before we do that, though, you guys may have noticed that this is a little bit of a different type of presentation than you're used to in GovCon, and that is by design. So part of us bringing proposals in GovCon to nonprofits that may not be familiar, or to new individuals that may not be familiar, is that we try to make it more accessible. And part of that is making it fun and taking it back to the basics. I honestly prefer to learn this way, right? I retain more information this way. And a lot of times we're learning very complicated concepts as we, continue our careers, but we forget the basics. And so I think this is good for everybody. So we're going to take it back to the basics with an analogy. And for this analogy, I want you guys to imagine that you're going to a concert. All right, so get your imagination hat on, whatever you need to do, book in a concert, some concert tickets. You're taking your friend or significant other. And it's not just any concert, it's a symphony. So you guys are dressing up, you're excited about it. Like, you are expecting to go to a symphony, right? You take your seats and wait for the orchestra. And instead of an orchestra, you just get a single French horn player that steps out on the stage, which is okay. Like, maybe this is just the intro to the orchestra, except that a harp player then comes out after the French horn player exits the stage. And after the harp player, we have a cello player. So at this point, this is not an orchestra, right? Like, these are musicians that might play in an orchestra, but they're all playing solos. And the question is, can you call it a symphony if it's just a bunch of solos? Thankfully, the grand finale is coming up, so this is good. We're going to finally see all the musicians play together. So they get on stage, excuse me, and they all start playing their individual solos. And that is not good, because while they may have sounded great individually, right, when they were on stage and they had one vision for whatever music they were playing, when you combine them all together, it sounds chaotic and it does not sound good. And that's not an ideal situation, for sure. Thankfully, symphonies don't operate like this, but BD teams often do operate like this. And the end result is the same. You have a chaotic proposal at the end because everyone has a slightly different end goal vision. And when you try to bring them together, it is not connected. So if you guys remember the boxes, this is also very relevant for this analogy here. In our analogy with the orchestra, each musician was playing in their own box. And again, when they were in the safety of their own box and they were feeling good about it, that was good for them. It sounded great, but they didn't have the context of everybody else, and they didn't have the context of the expertise of everybody else at that time. And so they're just thinking about their French horn line. Same thing with the cello and the harp. When you remove those boxes, what sounded good when you're in an echo chamber does not sound good when you're expected to bring it all together, right? And I'm not sure if you guys have had experiences like this in proposals, but I have definitely felt this way, where everybody feels really good about it, or a couple people feel good about it because they're in an echo chamber, and then we get to the proposal and it feels like pure chaos. The big problem with this is not just that it stresses your team out and you guys are, not representing yourself well to the customer, but the evaluator and decision maker is going to feel that chaos in your proposal as well, and your messaging is going to be confusing, and it's a missed opportunity to really be clear and deliver the solution that they want. So speaking of solution, I'm not someone that just likes to talk about problems, so there is a solution here, and it's that they need to be playing the same song. They need to rehearse together and refine that song together using all of their subject matter expertise as musicians. And then they need a conductor, right? And we believe that proposal managers are in a fantastic space to be that conductor, as long as they are empowered by their organizations and freed up to do that. Proposal managers work, if you think about it, across your team because they know where all the information is. They know our past performance, or they should. And if they don't, we need to empower them to feel that way. They work with the different musicians throughout the process. So they are really great candidates to be this conductor throughout the process. Unfortunately, though, proposal managers are often treated and seen as stage managers. They're typically engaged shortly before the RFP drops. So your teams may do some pre-RFP work where they're trying to write to things, but it's really right before showtime. And in most companies, the proposal manager's primary responsibility is to ensure the main event, i.e. the proposal, runs smoothly, right? Those things are really important. So if we don't have that, then it's not good for anybody. But they're really only half of the equation. A stage manager makes sure that the show starts on time and that everyone is where they need to be. Very important. It would be terrible if you have someone do that. But if the musicians don't play from the same sheet of music, and if the music isn't good, my question is, like, do the logistics really matter as much? And my answer to that is no. Like, you can put a lot of hard work into arranging logistics for a proposal that was never going to win because the messaging is chaotic. So we really need to focus on both. BD processes, if your BD process and proposals often feel like we talked about chaotic, if they feel rushed, like the pieces don't fit, and like they lack direction. It may be because your team is operating in silos like this, and you might need to empower your proposal managers to act as conductors rather than stage managers. So we talked about the traditional BD life cycle, and for me, what I personally believe and what we teach in proposal team, right? What we teach our folks that are coming through, because we want them to start off with this understanding, is that proposals is not like the third step in the process as it's often seen. We really believe that the proposal is developed throughout the entire life cycle. And the proposal manager is the keeper of the vision. And so using our butterfly analogy here, oftentimes we think of the proposal life cycle, we judge how far we are along and what box we're in, right? And that's not the right way, in my opinion, to think about it. What we want to judge how far, the way that we judge how far we are in the capture and proposal process is the maturity of our solution and comparing it to the customer. And so utilizing all those resources, capture, solutions, and delivery to constantly be getting more information so that our solution is being matured through the process. And by the time the RFP drops, it's just a matter of making that solution come to life so that we send it off to the customer and they feel and experience that. And hopefully it results in an award and you deliver the contract and then you close it out and it starts all over again because you're going to do capture on the recompete. Right, so this is a different way to think about it, and it does require prioritizing things because you can't go after as many proposals and contracts when you do it this way, but it's going to be a quality over quantity approach. And honestly, that makes everybody happier, including your customers, including your staff. And I really feel you'll be happier with the end result. And this is because proposals are the music that gets made when solutions, capture, and delivery come together to bring the shared vision to life. And proposal conductors guide the musicians throughout the process to ensure that the end result is cohesive. They are keepers of the vision, and their job is to hold the team accountable to that end vision. So like I talked about, I had the opportunity to see the end vision because I managed the actual contract, and I talked to everybody that was on the, providing support to the contract. I talked to the customer. So that vision was very clear to me. But a lot of proposal managers don't have that opportunity to be involved in the conversations they need to be involved in order to have that vision be something that is palpable and visible for everybody. When proposal managers are empowered to act as conductors early in the process, it elevates the experience for everybody. They not only help shape the story, but they play an active role in guiding teams long before an RFP drops. Dee, I see that I'm coming through a little bit muffled. Is that still the case? All right, well, Chloe, let me know if I need to adjust something on my end. What this looks like in proposals is that the proposal manager is now conducting capture solutions and delivery, and everybody else on your team, all of those very talented people that it takes to create a good proposal, they're conducting them to play together to create something beautiful, right, that speaks to the customer and that's in line with that end vision. Great. And this is ultimately what it takes to win. And if you're not the owner of your company, then you may not be connected to the end result, but you're definitely connected to how happy your boss is. And so that is, something that is going to make your jobs easier, your boss is happier, and your job more secure. But it's also something that if you are the boss of the company you own this company, it's going to result in better revenue and stability for everybody all around. But we have to get there by thinking of this not as a part of the process here, not the third step in the process, but it's proposals being developed by everybody throughout the entire process. All right. Again, if you guys have any QA, let me know, and we can. If we're done with background sounds, so don't worry. We don't have any more background sounds. I wasn't aware that you guys could hear that because when we tried it at the beginning before this, the sound didn't come through. So sorry about that. What we're going to talk about now is how we actually get there. And this webinar is entitled, capture-driven proposals, but really proposal-driven capture is what we're aiming for here, because capture-driven proposals begin with proposal-driven capture. This is my personal cheat sheet that I've developed over the years, and I always carry with me. I've got it, taped to my monitor, and this is something that's important to me as a proposal director and manager, as well as when I was in capture. These are the questions that really need to be answered at a minimum in order for you to develop that shared vision and solution. And they need to be answered before the RFP is released in order to write a tailored proposal. And the answers to this become the foundation of your shared vision, and they should be included in gate reviews, because we talked about before, rather than judging where you are in the process based on what box you're in, you want to judge where you are based on the maturity of your solution. And your solution cannot be mature unless you have these answers to these questions. All right. Okay, so these questions, starting with who is paying for it, who's evaluating, who is deciding, who are the end users, who is the competition, and who benefits. The why, so this is also the challenge, is why is it being procured in the first place? Why is it a priority for the customer and their boss? Why is the current solution not working as well as it could? The solution piece is how is our solution specifically tailored to address their needs? How will we make them and their boss look good? How will we ensure better outcomes than the competition? And now we talk about benefit, where we get into the what questions. What tangible and measurable benefits will they experience? What are the anticipated cost savings and efficiencies? What will our solution do to improve their lives right away? These are not the only questions that you need to answer during the capture process, but starting with these questions will lead you to the people and questions that you need to ask to continue to refine your solution and your shared vision. And again, these will be available, as Chloe said, in the slides. And the way that we do that here, so as we're bringing this solution to maturity so that it can become a real butterfly upon delivery, we are asking these questions, and every answer is going to get us further along. So at first we just knew that they wanted some butterflies. Now we're starting to ask why it's a priority, what's not working. And we're beginning to fill in the butterfly here, and we're mapping out what the customer needs and what their requirements are and what some of their limitations are. And then through the process, as we're developing the solution, now we're filling in the colors, and we're getting more, we're asking more people what their preferences are. We're building teams, all of that. Every information piece that you get triangulates to result in a more mature solution. And by the time the RFP is released, that empowers your proposal teams to write to that solution because they can see it. And it's very clear to the team. And now they're not just describing something that might exist or that no one can really agree on. Everybody knows what they're writing to. And the result is that your customer is not frustrated and they don't feel the chaos, but they actually feel the solution, right? And they can experience the solution. And that is good for everybody. All right, so how do we get there? These are some of my biggest tips and tricks for how we go from a box silo-driven organization to one that empowers your team to see the shared vision and mature that throughout the process. And these have worked for me. You'll have to apply them and modify them to work for your people. Everybody is very different. But these are proven things that I go back to over and over again. My first biggest piece of advice is that cross-functional projects are the easiest way to tear down silos. So on my team, everybody is on the proposal team. What that means is that we cross-train capture solutions and delivery on proposal best practices. Every capture manager should, in my opinion, coordinate and shadow on a proposal at least once a year. This allows them to do their part with the end goal in mind, and it also breaks down communication silos because if you've had experiences like mine, proposal teams and capture teams can often be at odds in an organization, and that is the quickest way to chaos. They have to work as two sides of the same coin, and in order to do that, they have to understand the goals and challenges that they each go through at some level. And for this reason, everyone is also on the capture team. So cross-train your proposal solutions and delivery teams on capture best practices. Every proposal manager should assist and shadow on a capture opportunity. This facilitates strategic thinking across the board and empowers everybody to be growth contributors. I've just included these sides of the coin, but this is also true for delivery and for solutioning and anyone else in your organization. If you want everybody to be responsible for growth and to be empowered for growth, you have to equip them with what they need. All right, this next one here is the end goal for your team should be to make the shared vision and solution tangible. So again, this goes back to not judging where you are in the process and how prepared you are based on what box you're in, but on the maturity of your solution and how tangible that is to your team. So winning proposals allow the customer to experience the proposed solution. The vision has to come through loud and clear, but that's only possible if your team experiences the proposed solution first. The proposal manager, when they are equipped to operate as a conductor, will help shape and is the keeper of the vision throughout the process. And if your team isn't clear on the vision, your proposal won't convince the customer because the customer won't be clear either. One of the ways that you do this is by bringing the proposal manager in day one, rather than keeping them on the island and getting them engaged right before the RFP. You want them to be a member of your strategic BD team, right? And there can be some, differences in your proposal team. Like there are senior level proposal managers, there are junior proposal managers, there are proposal coordinators. There's a lot of different ways that you can work this, right? But you need somebody who knows proposals and who is driving that proposal from start to finish, involved in these capture conversations. You want to give them access to the capture plan. You want to invite them to gate reviews. And this will allow them to, instead of fixing and bringing together a disconnected vision after RFP release, they're going to then help refine the vision throughout the life cycle because they're the keeper of the vision. And they're constantly bringing us back to, okay, well, let's go back to these questions. let's begin to fill in the blanks. Let's fill in the lines of the butterfly. Let's fill in the colors. And they're the one that's ensuring that that's happening, because that needs to happen to write a good proposal. So rather than cutting them off, to not allow them time to do that and just to fix a disconnected thing, allow them to do that throughout the process and give them the information they need to do that. This is going to empower them to feel confident in the vision so that they can champion it and communicate it during the proposal process. Another thing that I implement on my team is that proposal managers are responsible for writing the executive summary, and they do that before the RFP is released as part of capture. Making an intangible solution tangible for the team is part of this exercise. This executive summary becomes the shared vision and solution. And even if you don't have an RFP, writing a capture executive summary is going to give you a lot of the content that you're going to need to write to the RFP requirements if they do have executive summary requirements. But at a minimum, it will give your team a cheat sheet that really defines your solution, and it's a great way to make that solution tangible. This will include things like features and benefits, relevant metrics and past performance, proof points, your why us statement, your value proposition, and then also why not them. So what makes you different than the competition? And if you know who your competitors are, what are you ghosting, and what are you trying to work within the rest of the sections of the proposal to make sure everybody's in line with this shared vision and goal. Not only is it great for writing and for guiding your writers, but when your team is reviewing, this is something you give to them as a tool during the review to make sure that they are evaluating whether or not these themes are coming through in all of the other sections. Okay, and this is our final slide, and it is the most important. So we talk a lot about how proposal managers can assist in this process, how we want to cross-train them, how we want to cross-train our teams, and that is shifting the way that we do business, right? In today's traditional BD lifecycle, this approach is not possible the way that many companies operate because there is not enough time for this. And one of the things that takes up a ton of time is fixing the chaos that's been created because of the boxes. So we need to be able to remove that chaos and retrain our teams, and that takes time. But then also there are other things that have to happen that leadership has to shift in order to make this a reality. So if you want to implement this in your organization, the first step is not tasking your proposal managers with this. It happens at the leadership level because this is only possible if you guys prioritize it. So in order to empower your PMs to go deeper on assigned opportunities and proposals, you're going to have to go after fewer things. That means this is going to be a quality over quantity exercise. You're going to have to get started earlier in the process. You're going to have to start saying no, no in order to no on opportunities that you don't have enough time to mature a solution for. You may have a slow couple of months where you're not going after proposals. And so you have to shift your mindset to the number of proposals being submitted is how you judge how productive your team is being, right? Now you're going to look not at the number of proposals submitted, but at the maturity of your solutions, at the conversations being had. And so it is a major shift. You have to minimize busy work in order to allow those key members of your proposal team to really function as strategic proposal capture analysts, right? They're the ones that are going to bridge the gap. And so if you're throwing a lot of busy work at them, we're going to have to shift there. That might involve, bringing on some really talented coordinators that can help with the scheduling of things, that can help with the data calls, help with, some of the writing if your proposal managers are responsible for that. But asking them to be strategic means that other things are going to have to come off their plate. And this is going to have to be the top priority. That doesn't mean the other things aren't important, right? And we still need to optimize that. And so if you want them to be involved for all of the things, that's fine. But the number of proposals you go after and that they're going to be able to do a good job on is going to be reduced. So you really have to think through in your organization what is best for you, right? And what's going to work for your team. Is that you bring on other people within the organization to provide support under this proposal manager, or is it that you go after many fewer things? You're going to have to invest in training. This is a huge thing. So not just traditional training and not just, proposal managers, how to be better proposal managers, but this goes back to that cross-functional training that we talked about, where capture folks are learning about proposals. Proposal folks are learning about capture. Solutioning is learning about proposals and capture. Delivery is learning about proposals and capture. Your delivery teams are going to be your best capture, like secret weapons, right? Because they are on the ground. That's what enabled me to see the vision very clearly, because I was able to experience it firsthand. The folks that are experiencing it firsthand are your delivery teams. How do we make them part of the business development process, right? And then finally, in order to elevate the experience, right, and get to what this end goal is that we've been talking about today, you have to treat proposal teams as strategic BD. And this will be my big hill that I'm going to end on here today. Oftentimes, my experience as a proposal manager earlier in my career is that we would put in a ton of effort, and there was a lot of proposal managers. I met some incredible ones that really thought strategically and wanted to be more involved, but they were not either given a seat at the table. They were told to stay in their lane. They were not empowered to go further. And so they were really limited to the role of a stage manager when they had a lot more potential and a lot more to give. And really, they were the only ones talking to everybody across the board, right? And so treating proposal teams as strategic BD means giving them a seat at the table, asking for their opinion. It also means if you have, people get bonuses or commission, making that in line with the effort that you're asking them to put in, right? So if you're asking them to be strategic, they're a major part of the process, and they shouldn't be receiving a small part of commission while everybody else receives a large part. So there are a lot of adjustments that have to be made as part of this process. But I promise you, every proposal team that I've ever worked on, when we've shifted, people have been much happier, and our win rates have been so much higher because we shift to this mentality. So that is everything that I had for today. I don't see any questions in the QA unless I'm not sure how to see them. Chloe, do we have any questions?
No, we don't have any questions yet. Does anybody have any questions for Meryl they'd like to submit? Give it a few seconds. Okay, here we go. We have one from Savannah. Do you have any tips for proposal managers balancing multiple pursuits when involved throughout the end-to-end process? In your experience, how many pursuits can the average experienced proposal manager work with this approach?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have very clear opinions on this topic. So on my team at First Day, we have proposal managers and proposal coordinators on our team. And we work with a lot of different nonprofits. And so that means that we get a lot of different types of things that come across the board, and we can't say yes to all of them. My main rule of thumb is that a proposal coordinator and a proposal manager can really work on one really important bid at a time, where they're responsible for, everything start to finish. They can contribute to the process, like things that are not yet released, right? Or we're not close to the RFP stage yet. So things where we're just beginning to get the solution handled, maybe one or two more of those. But a live proposal and a live bid, if you're expecting somebody to go deeper on this, it's not going to happen. So my rule of thumb is one major bid and then beginning to contribute to the process on, no more than two. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question? All right, let's see here. Oh, wow, there's lots of questions. Okay. How do you encourage BD capture to stay engaged through and to the proposal process? This is another great question. So that list of questions that I showed you guys on my screen that we'll provide after this presentation, that is my best tool as a proposal manager to engage the BD and capture team through the process. So when we're meeting weekly, if we've got a weekly tag up, and as a proposal manager, even if we're not close to RFP release, I like to have a quick weekly tag up to keep everybody focused. We're going to go through that list of questions and we're going to put them on the screen because that creates a level of accountability and communication. And we're going to be talking through those questions every single week. And we want to see those questions being answered more and more every week. And that is one way that, we're able to push that through and make that solution conceptualized, right, and more mature. All right. Next question. How do we incentivize behavior? Great question there. So the biggest thing is to treat them as a valued member of your strategic BD team. And so when they're thanked, when you win the opportunity, the first thing is thank them right alongside the capture and BD teams, right? And then also whatever incentives you have built in for the rest of your team on the proposal side should also apply there. I've worked on many teams where the commission structure is publicized and it is clear by the percentages that are given to the capture team versus the proposal team what role they expect the proposal managers to play. And so if you're giving your capture team like a 4% commission and you're only giving your proposal manager a 1% commission, that message is very clear and you're not going to be able to get past that, right? Like if you're asking them to perform at a higher level, you need to lump them in with the rest of the strategic thinkers. What is your strategy for getting this buy-in from your team? To have an integrated approach versus silos? Great question, Linda. I think the first thing is to invest in training, right? So I think the first step would be to talk to your bosses about you wanting to take some capture training or thinking that it would be helpful for your capture folks to take some proposal training, maybe even if it's not in the budget, for your company to send them to that, you give them some proposal training. Because that in itself is going to break down silos automatically because information and perspective always does that. And then my next tip is to ask to just manage one proposal in this way so that you can show them, because it's much easier to show somebody the value of a process change rather than to, talk to them about it and get their buy-in. All right. You do a high volume of proposals, about 900 with a team of 8. Oh, wow. How can we engage in BD or capture since it's hard to engage with high volume? Yeah, to be totally honest, that is a ton of proposals, right? And so I don't know if your team will have time to engage at this level. And I understand that give and take because sometimes you don't have control over the process, right? And other people are making decisions about what you go after. If you can have conversations with the folks that are making the decisions at the 900 proposal level, that's where I would start, right? And getting them to dial that back if that's possible. If they are not willing to do that or not able to do that, then your team's going to just have to keep operating at that level because they're not being empowered and given space to do that. I will also say that it might be good to look for other employment opportunities because that's not that's not always a realistic way to continue on, right? And there are other companies that do a much smaller level. So if it's really stressful for you, and I would talk to your bosses, those people that are making a decision, and I believe that they should care, and if they can, they will, and they'll adjust. And if they can't, that's okay. It's okay to find something else, and somewhere else where you can make that happen. D, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. So I'm super active on LinkedIn. I post a lot of proposal memes, so as long as you like those. But we do a lot of training as well, and you can connect with me through Proposal Team. We have a LinkedIn site, proposalteam.org. And yeah, but LinkedIn is a great way to connect. All right, that is all the questions, I believe. Any other questions? Anything that I missed?
I did see a few in the attendee chat. So if I miss anybody's, I apologize. I do see a question right here. How do you deal with leadership who can't say no to opportunities and end up with overwhelmed proposal teams?
Yeah. So that is very similar to, I think, the answer that I gave earlier, is that sometimes a big part of our mental health in proposals and on our teams in general, is that we can only control what we can control. And so my approach to this, I've been on these teams before, is to communicate that I'm feeling overwhelmed, that I am feeling that my team is not able to give a high level of support because of the number of bids that are happening, and be able to come to the table with a solution rather than just a complaint, right? So communicating that and then bringing to my boss a solution. Like, I've noticed that we are often saying yes to opportunities that the RFP has already been released for, right? And we have not had adequate time to conceptualize a solution. And I've also noticed that we have lost, 95% of those bids. So what can we do, right, to be able to make sure we're going after the things that we are going to win, and we can improve this all around? That's something that is really tough for a boss to say no to. If I had an employee that came to me about that, like, they're forward thinking, they want, to affect the bottom line, like, that's amazing. If your boss doesn't listen to that, right? Or if they're not able, like, if they have a boss that's not allowing them to put up boundaries either, you can only control so much. So you adjust what you need to adjust. It may not be possible to provide this level of support, but it's also okay to look for other opportunities, because there are some amazing teams out there. And it may just not be for you, right? And the best teams that I ever worked on, some of them were very high volume, and I learned a lot. But once I got past that phase in my career, it's not sustainable forever to work in a high volume environment. You can let other people work in that environment and gain skills and experience, and you can move on to a different environment. Where can we find additional training sessions that you offer, for example, new to proposal writing, any free tools? Yeah. So we do a free proposal team cohort twice a year. We have one happening right now. It just started 2 weeks ago, but we have a waiting list, and our next one starts in July. And so we will send out invitations to enroll. We have about 50 students at a time that enroll. We are also getting ready to offer some paid training and a paid training portal, either self-paced or participating in a cohort that will go to provide more free training to folks as well. So those are some of the opportunities. All right, and we have a lot of proposal team students on the call right now. So thank you guys so much. I did want to end with that. You guys are awesome, and I'm really proud of you. Way to go. And if you guys want to take a look at our proposal team LinkedIn this week, we have a logo competition that is happening. So our teams are competing and learning how to utilize LinkedIn for networking. So take a look this week and vote for your favorite logo. All right, thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Meryl, for sharing your expertise with us today. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Both these slides and recording of this webinar will be available soon. I'd really appreciate it if each and every one of you filled out the survey on the right-hand part of your screen. We would love to get your feedback. And thanks, everybody. I hope that y'all's have a great rest of y'all's day.
Thanks, Chloe. Thanks, guys.